And here we are. We welcome you. This is Sunday morning. Well, Sunday lunchtime on the East Coast, Sunday morning on the West Coast, brunch time on the Central. This is your selection show preview show. Tradition like on any other. I'm Eric Lopez alongside Victor Anderson. Coming up on this show, we're going to break down what we think should happen and will happen tonight at Selection Show 7 Eastern, earlier than normal on ESPN2. There'll be some intrigue too with the show as far as who's hosting and all that. But 7 Eastern on ESPN2, and Victor, this is we've done this for a few years. We've done them in the past, and late night Saturday night, early Sunday morning. Make sure you follow us at In the Circle SB if you're new, because I know there's a lot of people. This is one of the more busier downloaded days of our show. We since we've done this since 2015, this is a day where a lot of people come to us, and in many cases, just take our information and use it for their own information on other sites.
Send your tweets at Eric Lopez Elo.
Yeah, been up since 4 a.m, people. I'm a little groggy, but here we go. This will help.
Before we get started, ladies and gentlemen, we do want to make an update to the bracketology that was published on xtrainingsoftball.com, which is available and for free. Princeton has won the Ivy League. They knocked off Harvard 6-1 in Game 3. So Princeton officially has the auto bid for the Ivy League. So if you see on xtrainingsoftball.com, there will be the projected 4 seed and going to Tuscaloosa to take on the Crimson Tide. But we had a lot of questions last night. First of all, for those of you who joined us last night, thank you so much for doing so. I know we had a lot of questions that we didn't want to get to tonight, but we're going to get to today. Obviously, a lot of it based on what you're seeing on your screen right now from xtrainingsoftball.com, or resident bracketologist, Mr. Eric Lopez. So, Eric, let's get things started, sir.
I know you got a lot of questions. You woke me up, so I'm curious. Yeah.
Well, people have a lot of questions for you in the field of 64.
I know. Ever since this bracket came out, I've got a lot of messages like, "I hope you're right," to "You're a jerk," "You're an a-hole." I mean, I've got them all, so ready to go.
Well, for those people who say you're an a-hole, hey, don't hate the truth, y'all.
Yeah, mostly in Texas, especially. Go ahead.
But let's start off with who you have as your top 4 national seeds. You have Oklahoma as your number 1, which I think is obvious. You got Virginia Tech number 2. You got Florida State 3. And then Arkansas, fresh off winning the SEC tournament championship yesterday versus Mizzou. Schlese Dells with a tremendous performance, winning the tournament MVP. You got the Razorbacks at number 4. What's the thinking behind 2 through 4, sir?
That was tough. I spent a lot of time on that. I think you could flip a coin, honestly. Especially, Florida State has, I believe, 18, 19 top 25 wins. But Virginia Tech's resume is clean. I mean, it's one of the toughest schedules in the country. I think it is the toughest schedule in the country. They did beat Florida State 2 out of 3. I tend to value regular season championships more than conference tournaments. Sometimes committees agree with that. Sometimes they don't. But the Hokies did win the regular season title. Knowles won the tournament title. You could flip it. And Arkansas obviously has a case. They won both the regular season and tournament title for the SEC. So if they switch the order, I wouldn't be surprised. I don't have a big problem with that. This is a tricky tournament to seed, especially in the beginning here, as we'll talk about. But that's kind of what was the, I can tell you as of Sunday morning, the people I've talked to that know about the RPI that nobody has publicly, which the committee does, still has Virginia Tech ahead of Florida State as of now. So I'm just going to stick with that. But would it surprise me if FSU's a 2? No. Would it surprise me if Arkansas jumped up there? No. But, I just decided to stick with it.
Fair enough. And interesting that you got Kentucky as a 2 seed traveling to Blacksburg. You got a couple SEC teams.
Well, let's explain the audience the 400-mile radius rule, because that is going to be a factor. This is not a true seeded tournament. Let me emphasize that. That is not a true seeded tournament. So you might say, well, why is that team there? Why is that team there? A lot of it is buses. I can tell you I've done the stat because I was up till 4 a.m. In the last 2, for example, we used the last 2 NCAA tournaments. There was a combined total of 39 flights used. So they averaged 19 and a half flights I think they had 19 flights one year, 20 flights the other year. I think 20 and 19 and 21, or the other way around. It's a long morning. So the point is, this is an NCAA thing. This is not a committee thing. The NCAA wants to save money because they're cheap. And, well, we know how we feel about them. So anyway,
yes.
There's 30. So what they do is, and this is important, the top 16 seeds are decided by the committee. It is and I read the rule book a lot. It's dependent on merit, not geography. It's supposed to be on merit. In other words, who are the 16 best teams? Okay. After that, it gets kind of tricky. They put all the other teams in. They see, hey, we think this is a 2, this is a 3 seed, and a 4 seed. They put them into a computer, and it's going to be a computer that knows that, hey, we have to bust certain amount of teams into a 400-mile radius, and that's how they end up with the tournament. I can tell you, in fact, Sandy Atkins told us when she, the committee chairperson, when she was on here on In the Circle last month, that the committee has recommended to the NCAA proposals of seeding either the top 32, the top 48, or the top 6, the entire field. That's significant. I've been told that the expectation is that one of those will pass, likely the top 32. That is significant because if that passes, Victor, it's a little bit more. We're getting closer to more like basketball. Basketball seeds their tournament. So instead of, for example, let's say UCF doesn't host, they wouldn't necessarily automatically go to Florida, like it's always the case. They would probably go, let's say UCF was a 17 seed, they would go to the 16 seed or whatever.
Which in this case, could be a Texas, could be a Missouri in that particular situation.
Right. So, like, for example, like I have Missouri hosting as a 16. I have Illinois as a 2. A lot of people are like, wait a minute, Illinois is a 17 seed? No, that is not true. What it is they can bust there. And that's how these regionals are set up. So we always rip the committee for that stuff, but some of this is the NCAA's fault. However, where we can criticize, in my opinion, fairly, the committee is the top 16 because they do have control over that. But you wonder, Victor, even though they say no, is because of that 400-mile radius rule, is that in the heads of the committee sometimes when they see the top 16,
Oh, of course it is. And they don't want to admit it, and they don't want to admit it as such, but it goes heavily into that. And we're going to get to the UCF situation later on in the show, but let's talk about 5 through 8 because this was really the big kind of one of the other storylines going into today is that who will be those teams 5 through 8? You have Alabama, Arizona State, UCLA, and Oklahoma State 5 through 8. I'm in agreement with you with that because you have to award Arizona State for not only winning the Pac-12 regular season championship, but beating UCLA head-to-head.
Yeah, I agree. And the reason I debated this, I kept Alabama at 5 because their schedule strength, non-conference, and everything blows away Arizona State and UCLA. And historically, the committee likes that. So I went with Alabama. Would I be bothered if the Pac-12 teams were ahead of Alabama? No, I would not. I don't think that's going to happen. I agree. The biggest thing they need to do is Arizona State needs to be ahead of UCLA. Arizona State won the Pac-12 outright over UCLA. They beat UCLA head-to-head, even though UCLA has a higher RPI than Arizona State. So I am in agreement. I think Arizona State has to be ahead of UCLA. Will they? We'll find out. I don't know, but I think they should in that regard. And that's why I have Arizona State at 6, UCLA at 7. And then Oklahoma State I have as the 8. They won the Big 12 title. They beat Oklahoma in the Big 12 tournament title game, and I think that warrants it. And they have a great resume, and I have them as the 8 seed, edging out Clemson and Tennessee because of that Big 12 tournament title.
Yep, and the fact that they beat Oklahoma at a neutral site, quote unquote. But I agree with you. I think Oklahoma State, if you look at their resume, they played more consistently throughout the season than a Clemson, than a Tennessee. But I tell you what, Tennessee did make a strong showing with Ashley Rogers coming back fully healthy. And the gentleman who will be having a lot of Dr. Pepper and a lot of talking to do with various coaches this afternoon and evening will be joining us now. Justin McLeod, National Softball Editor from Extra Inning Softball. Good morning to you in your Central Time Zone, Mr. McLeod.
Howdy, fellas.
So
we're already representing this morning, just for anybody who wondered.
Yeah, but it's already started. It's already started. So we were just finishing up just our conversation about the 5 through 8 season Eric had with Alabama, Arizona State, UCLA, Oklahoma State. Your thoughts on that 5 through 8, and do you agree with Eric and his rationale behind it?
I mean, I'm biased, but yes, I do actually. I think Oklahoma State played their way to a sure 8 by beating Oklahoma. I think Arizona State should be ahead of UCLA. I'm not convinced they will be, but I like doing what should be done. But either way, I think they're both in. And then, I mean, Alabama hasn't been Alabama, but they're still they're still a top 8 seed. I mean, they lost to Florida State, but they beat Virginia Tech twice, so they've got some non-conference in there. So, yeah, I actually quite liked them. I know how much thought went into them too, so I like them more because I know there's depth behind them. But no, I actually quite like the 5 through 8s. Well done, Mr. Lopez.
We'll see about that.
By the way, gentlemen, funny we should mention Clemson and Tennessee. It is a final in the Big South. Campbell has repeated as conference champion. So why do we bring that up? You look down at the article that we wrote at extrainningsoftball.com. Looks like Campbell will be that 4 seed traveling to Knoxville to take on Tennessee in the opening round of the Knoxville Regional. So Campbell is officially in. Princeton beat Harvard in the Ivy League. So 1 spot is remaining. Omaha or South Dakota State battling for the Summer League. It is 2-0 Omaha. They're in the top of the 4th there in the tournament that has been played by weather, field issues, you name it. So keep that in mind. By the way, South Dakota State, they have the 3 seed in Columbia. Omaha will be the 4 seed in Columbia. Missouri State will bump up to the 3. We'll keep track of that if it goes final. But while we're on the air, we will certainly keep you updated on that. But let's go back. Let's get to it, gentlemen. Let's jump right into it. The hosting situation, 13 through 16. We talked about it a lot last night. Right now, this final bracketology. Eric, you have UCF as a 15. You have Mizzou as a 16. You have Texas out, but traveling to UCF as the 2. What was the final points that you reviewed in making this selection of putting Mizzou and UCF to host and Texas the odd team out?
They're just a better team resume. They have more top 50 wins. They have a better winning percentage, top 50. They're over 500. I believe they're 13-11 by the time it's all said and done on Sunday. Texas is under 500 against the top 50. The top 25, everybody keeps making a big deal about this. UCF has 4 wins against the top 25. If you look at it historically, mid-major teams have had 4 wins. Like the Cajuns in 2016 had 4 wins. They were 4-7 against the top 25 in 16. That's good enough. Everybody keeps talking about Texas beating Oklahoma. Oklahoma is the number 1 RPI team. UCF beat the number 2 RPI team, Virginia Tech. That's a wash. That's a wash on a resume standpoint. Oh, by the way, UCF beat Texas head-to-head. UCF won the American Conference regular season title. They won the American tournament title. The American is the 6th strongest conference. It will likely have the same amount of bids in the field of the 64 than the Big 12 will. 3. You also have UCF has only 1 quad 3 loss, which was at Houston, a conference game on the road. Texas has a quad 3 loss at home against Baylor by 2 touchdowns. And I'm not even trying to be funny. It's a 17-3 score. That
it was actually a football score.
Last week. And that happened last week. That didn't happen 6 weeks ago. That didn't happen 8 weeks ago. That happened last week. And they also have a quad 4 loss against Florida Gulf Coast, who didn't even qualify for the ASUN tournament. It's in the hundreds. So to me, and again, if you look at the NCAA rulebook by the committee, they go on merit. UCF is the better team. That's why I went with it. Now, that being said, would I be surprised if UCF didn't host when it comes out Sunday night? No, because of this stupid 400-mile radius rule. Because Justin, and I'll let Justin speak to this, because unfortunately he listened to me a lot too much talking. We are at 3 a.m. about this. There's going to be a decent amount of Texas teams in this field. Now, most of them are flexible as far as where they can go, but sometimes the committee might just go lazy and just go with Texas to host just because they can bust 3 teams. That's the only reason Texas should host over UCF. Now, I do think Missouri's not a lock. Some people think Missouri's a lock. I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think if you're Texas, the argument you can make is, are we going to reward Missouri on one good week? Now, the argument Missouri would have, they beat Alabama twice over the last week. They beat Tennessee. They beat Auburn. They swept.
They beat Alabama. They beat Alabama 3 times. If you include the SEC tournament quarterfinal, they beat them 3 times.
2 times. They lost 2 out of 3. They lost 2 out of 3 at Alabama.
They've been kicking in already.
Yeah. See, Justin, you got to be prepared for all this information here. But I just think Missouri's hot.
Hey, Eric, do you not see the numerous lists Justin has behind him? I think he'll be fine for 6:30 Eastern, 5:30 Central this evening. I think he'll be good.
That's funny. But yeah, I would say that's one of those things where Missouri is hot. I think the committee usually rewards teams that make a run in the SEC tournament. You could argue that Missouri has a lot of losses that should keep them out of hosting, but I would assume they're going to get the benefit of the doubt over Texas and UCF on that. So I think it's those 3 teams for 2 spots, personally, and we'll see how that plays out. But could I see Texas hosting over UCF and have Missouri? Yeah, I could see that because of the traveling. If UCF doesn't host, it's because of geography, and I would argue it's because the committee decided a while ago that they were going to send UCF to Florida. So.
Yep, is it even up here?
UCF, Justin, you can kind of your thoughts there because we talked a lot about that.
I mean, that's honestly, that's kind of Texas's biggest attribute as a potential host. It's not their own record; it's the fact that they're conveniently located. So, I mean, because you can send the Cajuns, you can send McNeese. You've got Prairie View A&M who won the SWAC. Like Texas's biggest argument for hosting is not, hey, we're one of the best 16 teams. It's, hey, we're one of the conveniently located 16 teams. Now, Texas has a case to host. Don't get me wrong. I mean, there's a reason they're on that hosting bubble, but that's their biggest case is, hey, you can bus teams to us. Now, that said, as we were going through this and getting that final bracketology ready to publish, there's fewer flights in our field than the committee even used last year during COVID when no flights was a priority. When fewer flights were so I don't think it's as big of a deal because if you play around with it enough, you can obviously get a sufficient number of bus trips and fewer flights, even with Texas not hosting. So that's where it gets interesting for me is Texas's best argument has an immediate counter argument.
And guys, you can make the argument that's what's been a reason a few times that Kentucky has been hosting over more deserving teams is because their ability to have multiple teams bust to Lexington. Texas has that same situation in their favor this year.
By the way, I love the comments here. Did Texas flip their way out of hosting? We got messages about that. There's been multiple people. I can tell you this. There are a lot of people there's a lot of people in the sport that have texted me that are definitely rooting for Texas not to host because of that. Mm-hmm. I can tell you that right now.
It's true.
He is not a that. I can tell you that right now. So we'll see if that happens. But that I don't. Did they flip their way out? I mean, that's a good line. That's a headliner if that happens, right? Like, we'll see.
That's a bravo. Mwah. Chef's kiss. By the way, Steve B, who I know was the center of the chat yesterday.
Yeah. What he's got.
When I talk about Dr. Pepper or Mr. Pibb like last night, he actually has a legitimate softball question. OSU definitely deserves a top 8 seed as much as I dislike them being an OU fan. Hey.
I think
you beat the number 1 team. Go ahead, Eric. I'm sorry.
No, they're a top 8 team. I think their RPI is going to be in the top 8. I mean, by the way, that's the other thing that Texas doesn't have anymore now. They can't claim they're the only team to beat Oklahoma. That's the other thing that hurts them. And I know they're going to say, well, and I'm not saying it's not a great win still, but it's not like the only win, which I've heard about.
It's not an exclusive anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
No, it's not. And Oklahoma State did it at a technically neutral site, and it was for a conference tournament championship. So we shall see. We shall. We got another comment in the chat. Keep the comments going. Gerard, Well, the NCAA set up some drama games. So we all know that they like to create storylines. For a lot of y'all who thought they didn't do that last year with Texas and Oklahoma, Texas and Oregon, you're kidding yourselves, ladies and gentlemen. But let's actually go back to our bracketology, which you can find for free on xratingsoftball.com. And I see, interestingly enough, the 13th seed as Duke actually getting the host this year, as opposed to last year where Duke was the 1 seed, but Georgia was the host as the 2. Do we see any similar scenarios like that this year?
We'll see. I mean, it depends on how this kind of works out. I mean, you could do a lot of different things. Like, we brought up on Saturday, what if Washington doesn't host or UCF doesn't host and they decide to pair up Washington and UCF? You would have the storylines of the coaches with Sidney Ball Malone, Whitney Jones, and her staff coming, being with Washington ties. That's a storyline. You're not going to get something as good as the Oregon-Texas one from last year. But you never know. Maybe you will. You never know. And it just depends on what you're looking for. Right, Justin?
Yeah. I mean, I almost wish we had an easy Oregon, Texas. But, I mean, there's always going to be something. I just feel like it's harder to peg. Like, I don't think there's just a ready-made – here's the storyline that dominates everything. I could also see drama games fitting a different definition by the end of it too.
You could. Yeah, you certainly could.
I agree. So we'll see. I don't know if there will be some storylines. I mean, you guys will be on top of that. You're going to be on, both of you are going to be on live as it happens.
Yeah. Yes, live at 6:30 Eastern, 5:30 Central, Justin. Oh, by the way, fellas, funny we should mention that because one of the guests that will be joining Justin and I tonight, someone who knows a thing or two about playing in Oklahoma City because she was just here last year with Florida State, ACC Network Extra analyst, former Seminole, Kaylin Arnold will be one of our guests on our live stream tonight, joining Andrew Haynes as well. And then we're also working to see we got someone to give us a Pac-12 perspective. We're looking to get that confirmed around the 8:30 hour of our selection show. And of course, Eric will be covering things from the UCF perspective. And depending on what happens, we may have him on, we may not have him on. It's all going to be a fluid situation.
What my mindset will be. I mean, you guys, where my mindset will be. Where will I be? Am I going to be hitting up Vic to say, "Can get me out of jail? I mean, bail money."
Look here, brother. I don't have a get out of jail free card. I ain't. This ain't Monopoly.
Oh God, LSU to Florida State. Don't even bring that up. LSU to Florida State. Jesus.
By the way, did you have we have an update. I hate to interrupt, gentlemen. We do have an update from the Summer League. Omaha is leading South Dakota State 3-0, going to the bottom of the 6th. If Omaha wins, the if necessary will become necessary to decide the Summer League champion. South Dakota State in the proverbial catbird seat, needing to win once, so Omaha needs to win twice to take home the Summer League crown. We'll keep you updated on that because it's likely going to be that if necessary, and that will definitely change the geography of what more likely not the Columbia Regional come selection Sunday night.
Well, yeah, I think the committee is just going to say whatever. Whoever wins, that's going to be. I think they already know where they're going. Like, put them in. I think it's just a question of whoever wins. I don't believe the committee is going to be spending Sunday morning watching every pitch and thinking, all right, if this team wins, they go here, and if this team wins, they go there. I think they've already. But you notice,
ladies and gentlemen, on his bracketology, he has a Summer League champion going to Columbia. It's just a matter of the seeding. Who's going to be at 3? Who's going to be at 4? So it sounds like to me, Eric, you got the Summer League champ going to Como regardless. If it's South Dakota State, they're the 3, check out Illinois. Well, and if it's Omaha, we just move Missouri State up to the 3.
I mean, that doesn't matter. All that stuff's kind of whatever. Yeah, I mean, it could happen. Yes, I think what they would do because Omaha can bus to Missouri. Now, South Dakota State can't, but whatever. So you just put them there, and whoever wins, you just slot them, and it takes you 2 seconds. It's very simple. That's what I think they're going to do. Do I agree with it? No, but again, you got to go within the parameters of this 400-mile principle and all that nonsense. So,
all right, let's get to, I think, the number one storyline of the tournament. Will the streak continue for Arizona? Arizona is the last team in, according to Mr. Lopez. Western Kentucky is the first team out, and some Hilltopper people went to tweeted your bracketology, Mr. Lopez, and have some words. But you know what? We're going to get to that pretty shortly because we got a guest joining us right now, gentlemen, who doesn't have to worry about being on the bubble because they punched their ticket yesterday with the Big East Championship. And, of course, we're joined right now by the head coach of the now two-time
that's two-time Big East champion. Yeah, two-time Big East champion. Yeah,
Villanova Wildcats. Richard Orchard joining us in the live stream. Coach, good morning, good afternoon, and how you doing it this election Sunday?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Thanks. It's kind of like an echo, so sorry if I don't hear some of the questions.
No, you sound great. You sound
great.
You sound fantastic. You sound good. So congrats on the Big East title.
I said Big East champion.
How do you feel about the Big East title there? Let's see how we can go there. There we go. We got some technical there stuff. All right, Coach. Where are you? How you feeling about this Coach, after the Big East title?
Feel awesome. It's great. It's kind of a whirlwind of emotions, ups and downs, and everything. We just got back in late last night, so getting ready here today. We got graduation this afternoon and the selection show tonight. So it's the best time of year. Postseason softball is great.
Coach, good to see you. How you've been here once last year with Villanova with this team. You come in this year, and was it the same feel coming into the tournament? Did you feel like, okay, we're going to go back to back? Did you feel like I don't know what's going to happen? How different was it?
It was a lot different this year. I think we had such an up and down year, and we dealt with a lot of adversity. We lost the weekend coming in this year, where it was the exact opposite last year. We were winning heading into the tournament, so it was almost like flip flop from last year to this year. So it was definitely a different feeling, and we had some motivation. I think the girls, seeing UConn take the regular season, I think that helped motivate us a little bit, and we stayed humble and we stayed hungry, and we just worked hard and got after it. But definitely was different than last year.
Describe this season, what it was like, because you're right, it wasn't smooth. It didn't, like last year. You were challenged a little bit. Just describe the season, and then what kind of changed in the Big East tournament.
I think the biggest thing, the biggest change for us is we kind of had a target on our back this year after winning last year. We felt like underdogs last year. Or this year, we were picked number one, and we obviously the repeating champs. So I think there was some pressure on us. We stepped up our schedule. We tried to play, we always try to play the best we could possibly prepare us. I think just mentally, and even physically, just getting the girls to understand and to buy into that, and knowing that we're going to learn a lot more from our losses. And it's what happened to us this year. And, as a coach being there before, I know that. I don't think our players have. So when we took some of those tough losses early, we lost extra innings. So Louisville, we played Duke, we played Florida, we played all the teams, and we ended up with losses, but I think it made us a lot better. I mean, going through it's tough and it struggles because nobody likes to lose, but I think our girls were able to see from that, and they were learning from that. Even our conference losses, we opened up the season 0-2, losing to Butler, and it ends up being, a good thing for you, I think, because the girls, they really do. They stay humble. I think we thought, hey, we won last year. We're going to just, roll out there. You can't just show up. You got to work hard. And I think that was good for us to kind of take those lumps and just really get after it and work hard and kind of focus on what we need to do to win.
Once you got to the tournament, how valuable did the experience of winning last year's tournament and playing in the NCAA tournament come in for your team?
I think it's huge. I always talk about the experience, and I think experience is just huge. It's almost as much as talent. I think you could have the most talented team, but if you don't have the experience, I think you're going to lose. I just think our girls, even more than me, they're out there this year compared to last year. They were calm, they were there. They talk, one of our, upperclassmen talked to the team before the games. We talk about like faking it till you make it. And she said, we don't have to fake it. We already have it. We just have to play our game. And I thought that was huge coming from one of the players. I wanted to say the same thing almost, but come from them as even more, was like, we don't have to play up. we just have to play Villanova softball. And then those other games early in the season, we're going down facing Florida at Florida, and then we have to play up. A lot of things have to happen for us to win those games. But I think, and we get to our conference, the whole thing is like, we don't have to play out of our minds here. We just have to play our game. We have the talent, we have the depth, we have the pitching, we have the hitting. So I think they know going in, it just relaxed them a little bit, and they knew we had what it took to beat them.
Speak of your star player, Paige Rao, who adds to her legacy here, winning another Big East championship, helping there. Just talk about her and how she's doing, and after another successful Big East tournament title.
Yeah, I mean, she's amazing. I mean, I've coached her, and I've been with me, I think, for 5 years, and she just continues to impress me. It's almost, it's unbelievable some of the stuff that she does, just day after day. But this tournament that we just had was probably the best we've ever seen her, and people have been saying like, wow, like she's really throwing from the dugout. Honestly, it's kind of hard to see, if the ball's moving or breaking or what. So we saw that she was getting lots of swings and misses, and looked like she was throwing hard. But when you watch the tape, she really had it going on, and it was hot. It was over. We're in Chicago thinking it's going to be cold, and it was hot. It was over 90 degrees, and for us, it's hot. We were out there. We're on turf. It's all turf, so we're kind of baking out there. And she's throwing her butt off, and she was just in a zone, locked in. And we did 1-1-1. It was great, but we feel like we played about 5 games. After one game, we were just mentally and physically exhausted. It was such a grind. Her game against DePaul, who beat us out there in 19. So, you always remember your losses, and it just keeps coming back. And she was out there that year, coming back this year, going 8 innings. We couldn't get her a run, and finally we were able to squeak one in there. But I think what she showed there, and then coming back the next day and doing it all over again, and we gave her 2 innings off in the championship game. But other than that, she pitched every inning of the tournament.
We've talked about last year coming into this year, the growth of the Big East, and you guys weren't the top seed this year. You're defending champions. You come in, but you're the 3. I mean, just as a whole, what have you seen in the Big East and the growth of softball there just since you got back to Villanova?
Oh, it's been awesome. I mean, I love our conference. I love the Big East. I'd love to see us be, eventually, maybe next year Selection Sunday be a 2-3 bid league. I mean, they're really getting better, and they're making us better. I think our RPIs, looking at them between DePaul and UConn and Villanova and Butler, the teams that are making this year, Providence had a run this year. I think the teams, the pitching all around is getting so much better and making everybody better. I mean, our conference player of the year came from Creighton. She hit like 524, and they weren't even at the tournament. So we have a lot of talented athletes throughout our conference, and great coaches that are really, playing challenging schedules, getting out there, getting after, and kind of raising the bar of the whole, their programs and also the Big East.
Last year, you were a 3 seed in Tucson. This year, you're probably going to be either a 3 seed or a 4 seed. It could go either way. It depends on what they want to do. I have you busing to Blacksburg, because I believe you can bus to Blacksburg, correct? Just confirming that.
Yeah, I think so. I saw that earlier too. I think we can. I kind of would like to be able to get on a bus as opposed to fly cross country again. But we're excited to play wherever we go. But I saw that. Do you have a preference when it comes to seating? That stuff. You were a 3 seed. I know that was a lot of pride and respect last year. I'm just curious, as you watch the show tonight, you're in. So what are the things you're going to be looking for? Yeah, I'd love to be the 3 seed. Yeah, absolutely. And I talk about like our conference tournament. I'm like, oh, you could be 1 through 4. It doesn't matter. But when you get to regionals, you want the highest seed you could possibly get. So I'd love to be, the 3 seed, not having to be. If you're the 4, obviously you have to face the host and one of the top seeds, top teams in the country. So a 3 seed is what we're hoping for. But again, just happy and excited to be it. But definitely room for 3. And if we can drive somewhere, that'd be even better. So we don't have to go out west and change time zones. Even if we flew and it was just, East Coast, that would be fine as well. I just don't want to go different time zones.
Different time zones. Yeah, no, I hear you there. And the reason I have you as a 3, I do think the Big East champion has earned the respect to get consideration to be a 3 seed. I think UConn, had they won the Big East tournament, I had them as a 3 seed. So why couldn't you be a 3 seed? It's kind of my argument.
Awesome. I hope they feel the same way, because I do. I'm right there with you. I hope so. I do. I think it's a grind. I think the Big East is really tough this year. UConn beat Missouri early in the season, and they got some big wins. And DePaul had some big wins. They're a great program. So I definitely take a lot of pride in winning the Big East.
Go ahead, Justin.
I just sit here and I'm thinking about it, and whether you're a 3 or a 4, that tournament experience that we talked about and all that. But when you go into this tournament, how much does where you are playing, like you talked about, not having to go across the country and that kind of, how much does that factor into your actual preparation when you're going to play in a regional. You know, when you're preparing for the teams, obviously, but does it factor in not having to be, 3 hours behind where you would normally be? Does that factor into your prep?
Yeah, absolutely. I just think that the grind of it, getting the logistics, tonight when we get it, as soon as it's announced, and then you get the packet of information, and you're going to get your travel party and who's flying and where you're going and your hotels and just getting there. And I think with the flights, it is a change of time. So you got to get out there, you got to adjust. And already at the end of the season, you're already exhausted. I think it took a lot of us this past weekend. So we're regrouping. You're kind of turning it around in about 2 days, depending, get out there. If we're playing on Thursday, we got to get out there on Tuesday or Wednesday. So I think figuring out the logistics is tough. When you can just hop on a bus and go, you save yourself having to do all that travel party plans, and you just get on and go. You can pretty much leave whenever you want to. You don't have to worry about getting to the airport. And I always get there way, way early because I panic. So we're always hanging out at the airport for 2-3 hours, which is probably on me, but I don't like to do that. Our travel day when we fly is way longer than we busted somewhere.
What's the one thing you think you want your team to take from last year's, for the returners that to experience that NCAA tournament that you think could help you this year, wherever you are, whatever the seed you are, that you want to use that from last year that could help you this year?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's where we're blessed right now. And, having Angela Giampaolo and Paige Rao and Chloe Smith, Ellie Joe, the people that were there last year. We got to go out to Arizona, which was just an awesome, awesome experience. Just speaking strictly from student athlete experience, it was so cool to go out there. And obviously Mike Candrea, the legend that he is, for our girls and our parents to kind of go out there, see there and play on their field. It was cool. And I think they were a little bit in awe, which, I mean, even I was. So I think this year going in, the hope is, they've been there, done that. They're not going to be quite as in awe of, it was their first time ever going to regional. So I think the second time around, a little bit knowing what to expect, a little bit, not in shock, not in awe, and kind of, playing the games. They know every game is going to be tough, but as far as prepping for the teams, we get to do that tonight. So once we find out, we'll be doing that the next 2 days, kind of figuring out who we're playing and what they have. And now with video, it does make it a lot easier. It makes it a lot easier.
All right, so we only got a couple more minutes for you because I told Justin this. He did not believe me. You got a graduation you're going to. He's like, who does a graduation on a Sunday? Play.
It's just athletes only. So the ones that were participating. So it's baseball, track and field, softball. I think there's about 40 athletes. So they do a special. Our graduation was Friday, so we would much rather be at the Big East tournament than graduation. But they do a really special one on campus today, which is nice. So we'll do that, and then we do the selection later tonight.
All right. Well, we're going to let you go. We know we got to get you ready for that. But thank you so much for taking the time to coming on with us. You're one of our favorites. Justin, you have any last thoughts there for Coach?
No, it's always good to talk to you. I always like your insights.
Awesome. No, I love you guys. I think you guys do a great job. I love what you do for softball. So anytime I can get on and do whatever, you guys have great insight. It helps us out as well. I appreciate all you do for the sport and for Villanova and for me.
Hey, as far as we're concerned, you're now the face of Villanova. You realize that with Jay Wright retiring, you're the face now.
Awesome. Big shoulders. I'll step on those.
All right, Coach. You take care. Good luck tonight.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bridget Orchard joining us now here on In the Circle live show. They're awesome for Coach to check out with us here for a few minutes. Your thoughts on Coach and Villanova there, Justin?
I mean, the thing she talked about, kind of the stars in your eyes the first time you go to the tournament, she's right. Paige Rao had been there, but nobody else in Villanova had. And Bridget Orchard had been there 1,000 times, it feels like. But it's hard it's one of those things you have to experience it, I feel like. So I think that's important. And if they end up as a 3 seed, I mean, you don't know what's going to happen in those 2-3 seed games. You just never know. So I think that's an important quality for them to have, is to have been there once, got it under their belt, going back this year. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm picking them to win the regional, but I think they're a factor. And I mean, Paige Rao is freaking Paige Rao. So
that's a great point. In fact, Colby Peterson, Victor's back with us. Victor, how you feeling now? Uh-oh.
I feel much better. I think the caffeine decided not to work. So look.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
That's why we're doing it now before we get things going tonight.
All right. So Colby Peterson asked this question: which mid-major will surprise the most in regionals? Justin, do you have a thought on that? Which mid-major will surprise the most in regionals? I don't know if there's if there's a specific guideline to that. I mean, I don't know what the terms are on that. What's the definition of a mid-major? Heck, there's not going to be a lot of at-large mid-majors. But what's your thoughts on that, Justin? Who do you like?
If we're going to define mid-major as anybody who's not a Power 5, I think Wichita State stands a chance of it. We've got them projected going to Arkansas. I could see, like, let's say our projections hold, Mr. Lopez, your bracketology. I could see Wichita beating Oregon to make a regional final, for instance. Now, would that be just horribly surprising? Maybe not, just because we know what Wichita State's made of. But I think it would be surprising to a certain extent. So I could see Wichita State being that surprise team. I'm never going to say a team with Georgina Corrick in the circle doesn't have a chance at a surprise. I mean, she got South Florida to a regional final last year. I think you're talking about a couple from the American. I mean, UCF, we're projecting them to host. So I feel like as a host, making the Supers is not a surprise because you're hosting. It means you're one of the 16 best.
But I'll say this, Justin, if they don't host and let's say they go to Florida, that's a dangerous one for Florida. UCF has beaten Florida twice too.
Yeah, and that's the thing. If UCF ends up in that 17 seed, so to speak, then UCF, I think, immediately vaults into that category. And I think you're talking about 3 teams out of the American that that each could stand their own, could fight their own battle and do something with it. Because if we sit here in a week's time and say, you know what, Wichita State has the chance at going to the Supers, or if we sit here and say Georgina Corrick's pitching South Florida to the point of going to the Supers, or if we say that UCF, host or not, going to the Supers, I don't think anybody's going to be surprised. And then if you get past that, I mean, San Diego State with Maggie Ballant, that's a heck of an arm. Like, that's a heck of an arm. And one arm in a regional can be a difference maker. You need 2 to be really good. You need 1 to be a contender. But if we're going to define mid-majors, anybody outside the Power 5, I'm probably betting on the American, any of those teams, top of the list.
I'll give you another team, by the way. I want you guys' thoughts. San Diego State. Maggie Ballant. Got experience, big games. Michelle Carlin, my good friend, chimes in on San Diego State. I kind of agree. I think they're going to Tempe. I think they could do some damage there, regardless of who they get paired with. I think that's a team to watch from a mid-major, quote-unquote, standpoint, because you have to have pitching to make noise. And I think, if you look at the history, that's what it works, and San Diego State has that as well. I think UCF is kind of a James Madison type of thing. Remember a couple years back, Victor, when James Madison didn't host, got sent to Michigan with Megan Good. They won that regional. They could have hosted. They were sent to Michigan instead. They won the regional. I think UCF is in that category. I agree about Corrick, but I think those are some of the teams to look for and to make some noise. And look, I think Villanova, depending on what draw they get, which Paige Rowell, they have experience. They can make some noise too out of the Big East. I think they're battle tested. I think those are some of my picks. I don't know. I don't really consider the Cajuns in that category to some extent, but depending on if, for example, if Texas, for example, is hosting the regional and the Cajuns are there, I might pick the Cajuns to win that regional.
Because the Cajuns beat Texas already this season in Austin.
Yep. I agree. So I think that's another factor in that when we come to the mid-major. By the way, can we put up Jared's post here about Justin's office? We have instant analysis here on In the Circle. McLeod's office is legit.
McLeod's office is legit.
Yeah. Dude eats, sleeps, and covers softball. He's the GOAT. Look at that.
Oh, come on.
You're the GOAT. Look at that office.
Just look at the numerous list behind Mr. McLeod there. Look at that.
I don't know. What am I supposed to do with this?
Explain to the audience, you might as well, what is in your office? You've mentioned the big board. What kind of, you don't have to give it away in specifics, but just say, what kind of stuff are you putting up on your wall?
Okay, so the one you see right here, now for the record, the one directly behind me is blank. That one's safe for tonight. The one you see over here is umpires and broadcasters from all the conference tournaments, just because I keep track of that stuff. Up here, you have All-Americans by position or positions for position rankings and All-Americans. That's the stuff that's here. You've got stuff over here with notes from each team that won their conference and some at-larges. That's on this board. You've got coaching list boards over here. You've got more All-American boards over here. Like it's just a little bit of everything.
It's beautiful. I on the other hand have like the Marlins World Series stuff. I mean, I have, different posters of all my favorite teams. And here's
I've
Justin.
got a collection of Dr. Pepper bottles over here too.
Yeah, I knew that was coming. You got that's what I'm
By the way, gentlemen,
Hey, shout out, by the way,
gentlemen.
Mackenzie Wright. By the way, Mackenzie Wright, shout out to you. Really enjoyed I'm a fan of yours. So go Shockers. I'm not you better believe she's going go Shockers there on that. That's pretty good. Michelle Carlin's chimed in. Maggie B has pitched in the pack. She will challenge the big bats at ASU bats. I do agree. Now I want to see who they match up with. I have them against Michigan, which could be a great pitching matchup. Storako or Bobian against Ballard. But yeah, it'll be a fun, nice little regional. But yeah, I think that's the deal. Jared is saying, Justin, that Justin loves the Cajuns.
I mean, it depends on who you ask. I love and hate most of the teams in the country, if we're going to be honest. It depends on who you ask because, it's just how it goes, I guess, in my job. I've been told I hate this one, and then literally in the same, not the Cajuns specifically, but I'll be told I hate this one team, and then over here I love this team. It gets fun. That's all.
Interesting. By the way, gentlemen, a couple notes.
I do enjoy visiting Cajun land. I do enjoy that. I like atmosphere.
We need to make a visit. We need to make a visit to Lafayette at some point. I heard they have tremendous food. A couple notes, gentlemen. Omaha did force the if necessary versus South Dakota State. They won the first game 3-0. So the second game will be taking place at 1:15 Eastern. So Justin and I will talk more about that on the selection show tonight about who will be in for the Summer League. And then secondly, Matthew has a question, Eric, about your rationale for putting San Diego State in Tempe instead of Loyola Marymount or Fullerton, who you currently have going to UCLA with the number 7 national seed. Your thoughts about that, sir?
I have Fullerton as a 4. And Grand Canyon can bust Arizona State, so that was easy. The LMU it kind of became a San Diego State versus LMU. Both won their conference title. Honestly, it's a flip of a coin. You could flip them. I just went with San Diego State because I just decided to go with that. But I mean, if they flip it and have LMU at San Diego at Arizona State and San Diego State at UCLA, I don't think it's the end of the world. Either way, you're going to have former UCLA Bruin great coaching against the Bruins in a regional, I believe. I just think that I went with Newman going to Tempe to be a strong 3 there. And then, I have LMU as a kind of a mid 3 there at UCLA. This will be LMU's first tournament ever. Historically, teams on the West Coast, they make it for the first time, like an LMU, probably usually get sent to UCLA. So that's my thoughts. Plus, but we'll see. Again, you could go either way on that. Obviously, if you have San Diego State at UCLA, I did consider that because you have the Rachel Garcia storyline with her being on the San Diego State staff as well as Stacey Newman. So you have that factor. But I feel like the committee, that's too obvious. So I just feel like the committee will just put LMU there and have Coach Flowers back to UCLA. But I don't know. Again, you could go either way.
Sure, Carlin would like to have both Flowers and Newman Denise and Garcia all traveling back to Westwood. She would like to have a San Diego State and LMU both in the Los Angeles regional. But you got them both, Eric, as 3 seeds, so that's highly unlikely to happen. But hey, this is the same committee who.
Well, I don't think LMU. I mean, it's not impossible. It could happen. At that point, that's a Bruin bubble storyline. Somebody asked earlier about potential storylines. There you go. I just think LMU is warranted of a 3 seed. To be honest, I don't think they should be a 4. So that's just my thoughts. So again, flip a coin. Either way, it's gonna be a Bruin reunion, one way or the other.
A lot of Bruins.
Yes, indeed.
Not a big, but not a real big not a big mystery of why certain teams. Sometimes you just kind of go on feel and gut. So we'll see.
6.5 doesn't do it.
That's right.
Absolutely. Yeah, touche. Some people asking us about Women's College World Series finals picks. We're gonna save those for either tonight's show or
tonight or whatever.
We
gotta look. We gotta know We got to know the brackets, man. We got to know the brackets
exactly.
first before we make picks.
All
We gotta
that
know who's in
matchup.
the field. We gotta know who's in the field first, Gerard, before we make any predictions. We may have those predictions during the 6:30 show. We may have them on our Thursday episode where we'll get more in depth.
I'm barely confident.
Final thoughts. What's up? Go ahead, Justin.
I was just going to say, I'm barely confident in predictions when we do know the bracket. I'm really not going to be confident in predictions before we know the bracket.
By the way, gentlemen, tonight I will revise and recall the teams we had going to Oklahoma City that we made during our season preview show and see if you would like to make any changes. I know I'm probably thinking about making one myself. But that's just, you have to find out tonight to see what happens. Justin, I know you got an interview lined up at the top of the hour, so we'll go with our final thoughts going into Selection Sunday. Let's start with the man who will be at the epicenter of one of the biggest stories, UCF, our own Eric Lopez. Your final thoughts, sir.
By the way, hold on. We got a comment here. Don't want to see Stanford and Norman because Vaughter is legit and scares me to death. That's fair.
Ooh.
So
that's 3 of the months. Remember, Stanford did go to a regional final last year in Fayetteville, and I think the offense is much better than what it was last year.
So, and my theory also is, nobody will admit this, I feel that Oklahoma will usually actually gets a tougher regional than you would think. Like last year, remember they got Wichita State last year, which everybody was like, what? My theory is, again, people deny this and all that, because the Women's College World Series is in Oklahoma City, I feel that Oklahoma usually gets a little stiffer run as far as, hey, you're going to host and you're going to be in the state of Oklahoma the whole tournament. You're going to make it. You're going to earn it. You're going to get a strong 2, maybe a stronger 2 than you should get because of that. Are you buying into that conspiracy theory there, Justin?
I could see it. I mean, the logic makes sense to me. I mean, I don't know if that's the logic they use, but the logic makes sense to me. So I could see it making sense because you know, as much as outside voices aren't supposed to be in that room, humans are humans, and you want to take care of some things. So yeah, I can see the logic behind it.
And then Stanford's been up and down. I mean, RPI wise, they would fit as a 2 in Oklahoma. And then I think the 3 seat's going to be either A&M or North Texas. They both can bust there. If neither of them are at Oklahoma, then that's good news for Texas because that means they're probably hosting. Other questions here. Can you comment on why you have Arizona in? Assume it's the brand. Oh, Justin.
I was waiting for somebody to ask you about Arizona.
Let's go.
I was waiting.
So we have Arizona as the last team in the field. They finished last in the Pac-12. It's been a while since they finished last in the Pac-12. Yeah. Let's just leave it as that. I do think part of it is the brand. I have to see the committee leave them out before I just think they leave it out. They do have some wins. They won 2 out of 3 against Oregon. They took a game from Washington. They took a game from Stanford. But to me, Arizona's the story tonight as far as the bubble. Will that streak continue or end? They have not missed the NCAA tournament since 1986. That is going to be interesting. That, to me, Justin, that's the storyline on the bubble as far as the at-large. We haven't really spent much time on that. We should spend on that really quickly. To me, Arizona, Oregon State, a Western Kentucky on the outside. Charlotte's a wild card. It's one of the most bizarre resumes. Their RPI's in the low 30s, but they did poorly in Conference USA. I think that's the stories as far as the at-large. Your thoughts?
No, I think those are the 2. I think Charlotte and Arizona are the 2 most intriguing. And I remember one thing when you and I were going over different stuff, it's probably about 2 in the morning, was, I don't remember which one of us said it, but Arizona kind of has a meh resume. They don't have any just humongous write home about them wins, but they don't have any, oh, you're terrible, you can't lose to that team losses. So they're just kind of, resume-wise, they're just kind of in the middle. It's just kind of meh. Well, this bubble is kind of a meh bubble. Like that's the thing. Like you're kind of in that 64 spot. You kind of have to have, okay, who's the best of the meh teams? And for the record, that's MEH for the transcription. Charlotte is a little similar in the fact that they're the exact opposite. Charlotte has really good wins and really bad losses. So whereas Arizona, for instance, has none of either, Charlotte has several of both. And that's what I think makes them both so interesting. And the fact is, they may both end up on the same side of the bubble at the end of the day. That's also a possibility that makes things very interesting.
It really
And
is.
keep in
Western
mind, fellas,
Kentucky,
we always see there's always that one team that we didn't expect that sneaks into the tournament. Could Charlotte be that team? Could Boise State be that team? 40 wins. They finished second in the Mountain West. Could Boise State be that team? A lot of questions going into tonight.
It is. Those are the storylines. You guys are gonna cover it tonight. 6:30 start time. Live the selection show on ESPN2 at 7:00. Victor and Justin will be back for that. I will be with UCF. I may or may not check in. It will depend on technology and my mindset. At that point, yeah.
There's a good
More
chance this
mindset than
poster board will have
technology.
things on.
Yes.
Say that again. What do we got, Justin, there?
There's a good chance this poster board will not be blank and white by that point.
All right, very good. All right, boys, let's wrap it up here because, well, I need a nap. Victor, sign us off.
First of all, thanks to Bridget Orchard, head coach of Villanova, for joining us. Catch us live at 6:30. Justin and I will take things over. Eric, and we don't know what he's going to be doing. Or where
You're going to have guests. You're going to have guests on that show.
Caitlin Arnold will be on the show. Andrew Haynes will be on the show. May have Jenna Becerra from Pac-12 Network and Believe in Softball on the show. We may have some other people on the show. You have to tune in to find out. 6:30 Eastern, 5:30 Central. We thank y'all for watching us last night. We thank you for watching us today. Tell your friends, we're the originals. We're the one and only. Hey, we appreciate everybody doing what we do, but nobody can do what we do. But we're going to talk about it, all of it, 6:30. You're going to get Justin and I's reaction. So if we let a 4-letter word slip on live there, hey, we can censor it. Mainly more me than Justin. But we will leave that as it is. All right, so for Coach Orchard, for Eric and Justin, I'm Victor. We'll talk to y'all tonight, 6:30 Eastern, 5:30 Central on our Inner Circle live stream. Good night, Canada.